As I said initially, that your entire gastrointestinal tract is like a pipeline. It's like a pipe right from your oral cavity to your anus where you excrete out. This is the ingesting point, that is the excretion point. For most people, they do not look at what kind of stools they pass. As I've said earlier, the quality of your stools is the identity of your health. The stools formed should be firm and should be floating in water and should be uniformly formed. You cannot have one part which is loose and one part which is firm. Or some of them have stools which are very hard initially and then they pass watery stool. Your entire health is dependent on the quality of your stool. And if that is very well formed, you are much better with your digestive system, you are much better with your bodily functions. The entire body is governed by the 5 types of Vayu: Pran, Vyan, Udan, Saman and Apan. Apan Vayu is located below the navel. Just imagine a pipeline. If at the end of the pipeline there is something that is blocked, what happens? After a few hours, you start accumulating things towards the end over there, and that follows a backward course of accumulation. Once things starts accumulating at that point, the process of fermentation starts. Anything that accumulates in a place for more than its required time starts putrefying. Putrefaction, including water. If you have, you can imagine stagnant water and flowing water. Stagnant water normally is very, very bad if accumulated for a prolonged period, because it allows a lot of germs to grow into that. Whereas in a flowing water, you do not have this activity happening because the water is constantly flowing. So it's the same with our food material. If that pipeline is blocked at the end over there, then you start stagnating inside. Once you start stagnating inside, you allow bacteria and other organisms which live within the body to grow over there. Once you allow that, there is fermentation taking place, different form of gases being formed inside, including methane, which remains for a prolonged period inside, and then there is a backward flow of energy. So the energy which should have otherwise moved around, your entire body is dependent on Vayu, which has to have a movement from top to bottom. If this movement is restricted, that means there is some kind of stagnation taking place at that point. Now, once there is a backward flow, the entire course of each function of the Vayu is reversed. For Apana Vayu, the course is downwards. If the Apana Vayu course is changed upwards, then you begin with a disorder of some kind. Stagnation also leads to loss of appetite, poor digestive capacities, and finally you can see a person who has stagnation inside, whose system is blocked, has got bad breath. No amount of mouthwashes, cleansers, toothbrushes, toothpaste can help this. And he goes from pillar to post using rinsing his mouth with different forms of mouthwashes, thinking that it's his oral cavity which is the point which is disturbed, or which is creating all these things. No, it is not. It is actually the stools which are not very well formed or which are blocked, which remain inside, are the ones to create all these things. Along with discomfort in the abdomen, that is the first sign, all other activities of the body get disturbed. The nervous system gets disturbed entirely. You are poor with concentration. There's a lot of agitation taking place in your mind as well as in your heart and your body. You cannot focus on a particular object. You're constantly agitated. Now, agitation is the quality of Vata. If you see, a Vata personality keeps on jumping around. So though you belong to a Kapha type of personality, you are constantly agitated. You don't know what is the cause of this. People go to doctors for tranquilizers for that. But if the doctor is smart enough and he just asks one question as to how your bowels are and corrects them, he will not need to use these kind of medications. Once the stools are not very well formed or disturbed in any ways, whether constipated or diarrhea or constant loose stools taking place, the disturbances are shown in your entire body. For a person who is regularly constipated, it is pain at the anal region, fissures, fistula in ano, hemorrhoids, hyperacidity in the stomach, for gastritis, gas, bloating, lot of such symptoms which otherwise, if the tract is clear, do not happen. So one medication for that is get your tract clear. The other medication which Ayurveda uses a lot is the enema, which is called as Basti. Now, this is recommended in cases of nervous disorders. People always in Ayurveda joke about it and say, if you have a headache, take an enema. That is the origin of your headache, and it does work. It definitely works. I have seen that. So very often I have treated cases of migraine or cases of intense headache by just giving enemas, or sometimes just by giving medications to ease the bowel system. It is very much essential, as I have said earlier, that a person has a good bowel movement the first thing in the morning. Out of the bed and into the toilet should be the rule. Very often people say, no, I cannot do it now, I have to eat something to go into the loo. But my point is, if you are cooking food, when you cook food, you normally tend to use a clean vessel, and you do not cook food in the same vessel that you've used yesterday or cooked in yesterday without washing it. So the process that is taking place in your body is cooking the food so that it gets converted into bodily absorbable material. If you do not do this, if you're going to add food into a vessel which is not cleansed, the food will not remain good. It is definitely going to putrefy faster than food which is cooked in a fresh vessel. So it is not a question of what your body type is, it is a question of training your body. It might take a while for all of us to train ourselves. Initially, you can use medications, you can use different forms of laxatives or food material, and you can spend some time in the toilet training your body to activate the process of excretion. It takes a while for those who are not habituated to it, but you must be patient with it. Your body, which has otherwise not followed the regimen of out of the bed into the toilet, all of a sudden it will not cope with this thought of yours and take time to rectify the process. So what is essential is an activity to train your mind, saying that I need to pass bowels now, let me go and do it. Sometimes it might be a little less quantity that you pass initially, but that is a starting point. You might eat something and go once again to the toilet. Eventually, you will come to a point wherein you have an activity which says out of the bed and into the toilet. If you observe very closely, and if your body is healthy, the first thing that you excrete out, even though your bladder is full at the time when you wake up, the first thing that you excrete out are your bowels. After that, you release your bladder. This is normal. After that, you release your bladder, and the end point that the entire rectum has been evacuated is that there is a little bit of urine which comes at the end of your bowels. This shows that you've had a complete evacuation. This proves that your entire colon is now empty for new food material to be gotten that.